在迈向近零碳排的时代，InfoLink是一间能够让全球企业了解新能源产业竞争风貌的公司。
我们秉持着3个核心价值：诚实、公正、情报至上，以及共建绿能世界，
持续在业界建立良好的名声以及厚实的竞争力，继续将 InfoLink 打造成全球新能源业界最领先的顾问公司。在迈向近零碳排的时代，InfoLink是一间能够让全球企业了解新能源产业竞争风貌的公司。
我们秉持着3个核心价值：诚实、公正、情报至上，以及共建绿能世界，
持续在业界建立良好的名声以及厚实的竞争力，继续将 InfoLink 打造成全球新能源业界最领先的顾问公司。在迈向近零碳排的时代，InfoLink是一间能够让全球企业了解新能源产业竞争风貌的公司。
我们秉持着3个核心价值：诚实、公正、情报至上，以及共建绿能世界，
持续在业界建立良好的名声以及厚实的竞争力，继续将 InfoLink 打造成全球新能源业界最领先的顾问公司。
Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Ellie, PR Manager of InfoLink Consulting. InfoLink is a leading provider of renewable energy research and consulting service. We are delighted to have you today as we dive into the latest trends, technological innovations, and key opportunities in the global solar market, with a special focus on Europe. As the global demand for renewable energy continues to rise, solar technology has become a vital force in cutting carbon emissions and driving energy transition. At today's event, our analysis will provide in-depth insights into the European solar market, shedding light on the current challenges and emerging opportunities. We will also explore the potential demand in key European markets, highlighting the impact of national policies. In addition, we will examine the latest anti-development and its market prospects, alongside the dynamics of the global solar supply chain. Our topic today is Powering Europe's Solar Revolution, a vision for 2028 and beyond. And we will have 3 speakers on the subject. Before we proceed, let me introduce our speakers. First, we will hear from Solar Research Assistant Kyle Lin, who will discuss Europe's module demand and global market prospects. Then we will hear from Solar Analyst Vicky Zhao, who will share insights of anti-technology roadmap and low-carbon trends in Europe. Finally, Senior Solar Analyst Dora Zhao will provide an analysis of potential risks and opportunities in the supply chain. After presentation, we will take some time for questions, which we have collected in advance. Throughout the session, we hope to equip you with the strategic insights necessary to navigate this ever-changing landscape and position your business for long-term success. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Let's begin our journey towards understanding how we can collectively power Europe's solar revolution and shape the future of sustainable energy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Lin, a solar research assistant at InfoLink Consulting. Thank you all for being here and for your support. Today, I'll be discussing the Europe PV future, module demand projections, and global market synergies. I believe many manufacturers have noticed that the period of rapid growth in the solar market has passed. Moving forward, the market will gradually enter a development phase. Today, in addition to discussing the European market, we will also analyze the global and other key markets and highlight the emerging markets that are worth our attention. In today's rapidly changing market environment, my presentation will be divided into 3 parts. First, I will provide an overview of the current global module demand and trends. Then I will dive deeper into the developments in the European market, sharing updates on key countries and their demand. Finally, I will conclude with a summary of today's report. I hope today's presentation will help you gain a deeper understanding of the current trends in the global and the European solar markets. Now let's begin with the current status and the developments of global module demand. First, we observed that the global solar market experienced a significant growth from 21 to 23. With countries pushing for energy independence and diversification, numerous supportive policies have been introduced. Coupled with the global net zero carbon trend, this has propelled solar demand into a growth phase. We also see that after 2024, the growth in global solar demand slows down. This is mainly because last year saw record-breaking growth in global demand, and many countries have experienced a weaker economy and the political changes this year. Moreover, some markets are facing challenges such as grid congestion, stricter land compliance reviews, declining solar returns, and protection tariffs, all contributing to the decline in the growth rate of global solar demand. And under a conservative estimate, the global market demand this year will reach 469 gigawatts, staying pretty much the same as 23. In an optimistic scenario, it could reach up to 533 gigawatts, with a year-on-year growth rate of up to 14% compared to last year 467 gigawatts. As global solar demand growth is expected to slow from this year, any significant jumps is not likely. Instead, we anticipate a stable yet gradual growth, with long-term growth projected at around 10%. So looking ahead to 2025, we estimate that countries will continue to expand their solar installations based on current foundations. A conservative estimate puts next year's global market demand at around 492 gigawatt and 568 gigawatt in an optimistic scenario. So this is estimated that by 2026, global solar demand could reach 535 to 616 gigawatt. By 2027, it is expected to grow cautiously to 570 to 660 gigawatt, and by 2028, it could increase to 613 to 712 gigawatt. More potential demand could be unlocked if countries can relax land approval regulations or release more utility-scale projects and favorable policies. Therefore, the overall solar market still holds growth potential in the long term. So next, let's review the changes in major markets and the future demand trends. According to our estimates, China remains the world's largest solar market, followed by Europe, which accounts for 16 to 17%. After that, the United States, the Middle East, India, Brazil, and Africa following order. First, let's look at China. As large-scale projects of the 14th Five-Year Plan have been connected to the grid, future demand growth rate won't be as rapid as it was in 2023, with the central government yet to issue new targets for utility-scale projects. As the pace of new installations slows down by the end of 2025, demand is projected to come in at 245 to 265 gigawatt, staying flat compared to this year with limited growth potential. And in the United States, the third largest solar market, the upcoming presidential election will determine the direction of the solar subsidy policies, including the IRA. Moreover, high interest rates have increased the project costs, leading to some hesitation among developers. On the other hand, there are still delays in grid connection of utility-scale projects, while revenue from distributed generation projects has dropped markedly, impacting the installed capacity. Overall, it is expected that demand this year will come in at 38 to 42 gigawatt and reach 38 to 44 gigawatt in 2025. Staying basically the same compared to this year. The fourth largest market is the Middle East. In recent years, solar demand has grown rapidly in the region, with Saudi Arabia accounting for the largest share, making up to nearly 50% of the region's total demand. Starting this year, the Saudi government has launched several solar projects. In the long term, local demand is expected to benefit from the strategic framework of Saudi Vision 2030. Other countries such as UAE and Oman have also performed well. Demand in the Middle East this year is expected to reach 27 to 33 gigawatt with the potential to hit 30 to 38 gigawatt by 2025. And the fifth largest market is India. This year, government-led utility-scale projects will continue to drive demand growth, and more projects may be released in the future. According to our estimates, India's module demand is expected to reach 20 to 25 gigawatt this year. While the government continues to release larger-scale projects to achieve its energy transition goals, demand could grow to 25 to 35 gigawatt by 2025. Besides Brazil, due to the impact of import tax exemption quotas, Brazil's demand for this year and the next is expected to approximately 16 to 18 gigawatt. Finally, the African market. The African market accounts for only 2% of global demand, with demand for this year and the next estimated at 7 to 11 gigawatt. South Africa holds the largest share. Coupled with outdated national infrastructure and limited government support for ground-mounted projects, the South African market may decline in the future. Overall, Africa still relies on the support of other emerging markets. In some emerging markets, like Pakistan, demand is expected to grow significantly with government support and the release of several utility-scale projects. In the long term, demand could even reach 10 to 13 gigawatt. Other potential emerging markets include Morocco and Egypt, as well as Ukraine, which is in urgent need of post-war construction. These markets have great potential and the manufacturers should continue to monitor their development closely. Now let's turn to the main topic of today's presentation, the European market. The European market is not only one of the fastest growing solar markets in the world, but also the world's second largest market. This year, demand is expected to reach around 77 to 85 gigawatt and about 85 to 93 gigawatt in 2025. Later, I will provide a detailed analysis of the European market situation for this year and the next. In the second section, we will focus on analyzing module demand in the European market for this year and the next, as well as provide an overview of the market conditions in the top 5 largest solar countries in Europe. For the overall European market, last year's surge in demand has compressed this year's demand value. Recently, the European market has experienced the demand slowdown due to the weaker economic growth and other factors. Additionally, reductions in subsidy programs by the EU and some European countries have lowered the public's willingness to install distributed generation projects. Ground-mounted projects are affected by high costs and grid congestion, resulting in some delays. These factors will influence Europe's demand this year, and based on our research, several large European developers have recently paused the related activities, indicating that the current market should be viewed cautiously. Our conservative estimate for demand in Europe this year is around 77 gigawatt, representing a 4% decrease compared to last year's 80 gigawatt. However, if the aforementioned issue improved by year-end, demand could reach up to 85 gigawatt, a 6% year-on-year increase from last year. Looking ahead, with the EU and European countries setting net zero targets and promoting energy diversification, demand next year is expected to reach 85 to 93 gigawatt. However, given the high baseline, long-term growth may slow, making it difficult to replicate the significant demand surge seen in 2023. So in terms of demand push, the EU, as the largest political entity in the region, has huge impact on the development of European market through its policies and the strategic direction, such as energy security and diversification. In recent years, the EU has introduced the European Green Deal, the Repower EU Plan, and the EU Recovery and Resilience Facility to support solar development. As we can see, demand for this year and the next will mainly come from Central, Western, and Southern European countries. In contrast, Northern European countries mainly are with relatively less solar adoption. Eastern Europe, on the other hand, still has development potential, with countries like the Czech Republic, Romania, Bulgaria, and Ukraine showing promise. So next, we will explore the solar market development in the 5 major European countries, Germany, Spain, Poland, Italy, and the Netherlands, and estimate their demand over the next 2 years. First, Germany, the largest solar market in Europe. In the past, the country introduced the programs encouraging rooftop or balcony solar installations, and in May this year, it launched the Solar Package 1, which promotes demand through subsidies and a simplified application process. However, with a potential economic downturn, demand this year is expected to be around 50 to 70 gigawatt. If the economy improves, demand may reach 18 to 20 gigawatt next year, although the federal elections could impact the market. And Spain, the second largest market in Europe, has boosted distributed solar demand through the next generation funds and the hydrogen and renewable energy development program. However, falling energy wholesale prices and the installation delays have affected investors' returns. Demand is expected to be 5.5 to 6 gigawatt this year, increasing to 7 to 8 gigawatt next year due to favorable policies. And Poland and Italy are the third and fourth largest markets. Poland launched the sixth phase of the My Electricity program and plans to invest about 100 billion euro to improve its power grid. Demand is projected at 6 to 6.3 gigawatt this year, increasing to 6.2 to 6.5 gigawatt next year. In Italy, demand has been driven by the super bonus, but subsidy reductions and the land restrictions have impacted growth, with demand expected at 6 to 6.3 gigawatt this year and a slight increase to 6.1 to 6.4 gigawatt next year. Lastly, in the Netherlands, while the government has actively promoted solar installations, the new coalition's plans to expand natural gas and nuclear energy, and the cancellation of the net metering program may affect long-term demand. Short-term demand is expected to range between 5.6 to 5.8 gigawatt this year and the next. Overall, each country faces unique challenges, but as energy independence and carbon neutrality efforts intensify, long-term demand is likely to grow steadily. To sum up, we found that the European market is facing some common issues and challenges. For example, the grid connection application process. The grid connection application process in many countries has become overly complex, burdening by bureaucracy, which slows down the connection process. However, both Germany and Spain have recognized the severity of this issue and have introduced the related legislation or measures to reduce the bureaucratic obstacles in the grid connection process and simplify the approval procedures. Secondly, Europe is generally facing the shortage of skilled labor in the solar industry, which is especially evident during the summer and Christmas holiday. This shortage can lead to delays in the installation, thereby affecting short-term demand. However, the EU has established the Net Zero Industry Academies this year with plans to train 100,000 skilled workers for renewable energy industries by June 2027. This is expected to gradually alleviate the labor shortage issue. Furthermore, some European countries are facing issues with insufficient grid capacity, leading to the grid congestion, which is especially noticeable during the summer. This lack of capacity results in excess solar generation. leading to negative electricity prices and affecting developers' revenues. In response, Poland reduced solar power output during peak generation periods this year by shutting down some power plants, alleviating the pressure on the grid. Additionally, if Europe's energy storage demand increases in the future, it could also help resolve these issues. And finally, the economic performance and the political situation of some European countries has been less than ideal this year. And the government subsidies for solar energy have shown signs of weakening compared to previous year. These factors could pose potential risk to future of the solar development. Therefore, it will be crucial to closely monitor changes in Europe's political and economic landscape, as well as the possibility of governments introducing more incentive policies to drive solar demand in the region. Now, finally, I'll conclude the presentation with a summary. The European market is benefiting from the EU and most European countries' push toward diversified energy, as well as efforts to meet the 2030 NECP targets and the long-term net zero carbon goals. In the long run, the European market holds great potential. Besides, the EU passed the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive in May this year. This is expected to stimulate long-term demand for distributed generation solar. Moreover, an increasing number of countries are starting to install solar systems on public facilities, such as highway sound barriers, parking canopies, bicycle paths, and the government official buildings, which could also boost demand. Overall solar demand in Europe could surpass 100 gigawatts by 2026 to 27. While growth has slowed significantly, it is still expected to grow at an annual rate of 5 to 7%, keeping being one of the most important markets in the world. So now in conclusion, weak economic performance, shrinking subsidies, grid congestion, and insufficient grid capacity in Europe have impacted demand this year. However, if these issues gradually improved next year, coupled with an urgency for European countries to develop renewable energy, we estimate that demand could still achieve stable growth in the long term. As for suggestions, European developers or associations shall consider continuing to lobby government authorities or legislators to ease regulatory restrictions or introduce more incentive policies to support the solar development. Furthermore, organizing informational sessions for local communities to promote the benefits of solar development and to clarify that agrivoltaic projects do not pose a threat to the agriculture industry. Moreover, while the European market holds vast potential, developers could begin exploring emerging markets such as Morocco and Egypt. In addition, by planning ahead for Ukraine's post-war reconstruction, developers could gain an early advantage in the market. Eastern European countries such as Moldova, Bulgaria, and Romania also offer growth opportunities and could present potential business prospects. Looking ahead, global solar demand growth is slowing but will still grow steadily. We also hope that the issues currently facing the solar industry will gradually be resolved, laying a solid foundation for the long-term development of the solar market. Thank you all once again for your time and attention today. It has been a pleasure sharing these insights with you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Vicky Zhao, Sonar Analyst at InfoLink Consulting. It's my pleasure today to share with you the NTAP technology roadmap and the low carbon emission trend. My presentation today consists of 4 parts. In the first part, I will show you the change in PV technology. In second part, I will discuss the changes in PV products. Then I will explore the low carbon emissions trend in Europe. And finally, a conclusion. So let's begin with the shift in PV technology. From this graph, we can see that PV technology has undergone several rounds of changes. Before 2016, multi-silicon technology is main. In 2016, P-type replaced it, becomes the next generation technology. The average efficiency of products was 23.5% in 2023, where the maximum efficiency for P-type was 24.5% in theory. PV technology experienced a transition from P-type to N-type during 2023 and 2024. In terms of N-type technology, there are TOPCon, HAT, and BC products, and their average cell efficiency is around 25.5%. Silicon cells maximum efficiency is 29.5% in theory, whereas for TOPCon, HAT, and BC cells is 28.7%, 29.2%, and 29.1%. Respectively, N-type cell technology is current mainstream. For the next generation, the most discussed is tandem cells, which, for example, a barrier of silicon and perovskite cells, tandem cells could make a bigger breakthrough in efficiency, potentially hitting 40%. But this technology is still in the R&D, with very few production lines so far, and more research and evaluation is required for it. So, we know that the cell technology has shifted from P-type to N-type. Taking wafer production as an example, N-type wafer only accounted for 11% in January 2023, but the ratio has increased to 83% in October this year. At present, N-type has basically secured a share of more than 80%, which is clearly evidence of the transition. Now, let's look at the market share of N-type, which is already a mainstream. As per our survey, TOPCon takes up the highest share, accounting for 24% last year and likely to reach 17% this year. TOPCon's high market share will sustain in the next 3 to 4 years. Next, we will be looking at the changes in products which are highly related to technology and wafer size. First of all, we should need to understand 2 primary sets of rectangular wafers. One is the internal space of shipping container. To maximize the utilization of a container's height correspond to a height of 2,386 millimeters. The second is to consider the building regulations in Europe, especially in Germany, which module area must be less than 2 square meters for rooftop applications. Considering the various size of rectangular wafers, we find that only the 182 by 199 millimeters and 182 by 2010 millimeters dimensions can meet both boundary conditions. However, the 182 by 199 millimeter size requires its metric cutting during the manufacturing process, which presently some challenge from an order management perspective. Therefore, the industry favors the 182 by 210 mm size for rectangular wafer. We've also survived the ratio of capacity. In the sales set, by comparing data from Q2 and Q3 this year, we found that the 182 by 210 mm size has been a significant increase compared to other rectangular wafers. Additionally, during the transform process of 182 mm square wafer, we observed that more and more 182 mm products are shifting to the 182 by 210 mm size. The share of 182 by 210 mm rose from 13.5% in Q2 to 19.4% in Q3. Although the current sluggish market has slowed down the pace of size transition, it is undeniable that rectangular wafers are still expected to become mainstream in the future. Now that we understand the situation of rectangular wafers, let's take a look at how much benefit the rectangular wafer brings to the module or the entire European market. In residential projects, we can say that the current mainstream module in the industrial is still 1.95 square meters, corresponding to a size of 1134 by 1722 modules. In C&I and utility scale plants, the more commonly used module height is 2,278 millimeters, with the G12 size corresponding to 1303 by 2384 modules. With the increased application of rectangular wafer in residential projects, compared to the original module type, there is a 2% increase in area, leading to a 10-watt gains in power output. For C&I and utility applications, after applied with rectangular wafer, changes a module size of original 1134 by 2382 modules, providing a 4.6% increase in area, leading to a 25-watt gain in power output. Since the G12 size remains unchanged, we will not make a comparison here. Overall, with the development and adoption of rectangular wafer, the application of module with rectangular wafer in projects resulting a slight gain in area, which leads a noticeable increase in overall efficiency, thereby benefit the entire project. After understanding technology and product change, let's dive into low carbon policies in Europe. Europe has introduced many policies for low carbon emissions, starting with the Europe Green Deal, which aims for Europe to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050, addressing the urgency of climate change and environmental degradation. Under this initiative, several other policies have emerged, such as the European Climate Law, the European Industrial Strategy, and the Fit for 55 plan. The Fit for 55 plan initiative in particularly has led to the series of policies aimed at ensuring that by 2030, the EU's greenhouse gas emissions are reduced by 55% compared to 1990 level. CBAM is a key policy initiative under the Fit for 55 plan. The main goals are: first, prevent carbon leakage; second, promote global carbon reduction; and finally, production EU industrial. CBAM regulates carbon-intensive industries such as aluminum and steel. In relation to PV, it's directly connected to aluminum used in frame. With the continuous development, it may also expand to include other carbon-intensive industries such as PV glass. CBAM will officially begin in 2026, and the carbon tax will be impact cost. Although there will be a certain proportion of free allowance each year until 2034, with the reduction of free allowance and considering factors such as raising carbon tax, expansion of regulated industry, and improvement in module efficiency, maybe impact on cost will gradually increase from 2030, and by 2034, the impact could reach 10.58 cents per watt. In the future, more manufacturers will pay more attention to low carbon emissions. So far, we also saw some manufacturers taking measures to cut carbon emissions. Next, let's have a look at carbon emission of modules. Using the chart on the left as an example, we can clearly see that in the current module life cycle, the largest share of carbon emissions comes from polysilicon, followed by wafer and cells. To reduce carbon emissions in polysilicon segment, granular silicon is used to replace the traditional polysilicon to lower emissions. From this part on the right, we can see that since 2021, the production and overall share of granular silicon has been increasing years by years. In the wafer segment, carbon emissions are reduced by using N-type technology and thin wafers. The wafer thickness has already been thinned down from Parker's 150 microns to 130 microns of TOPCon, and this HET wafer can further reduce the thickness to 110 microns. In the cell segment, the application of N-type technology continues to improve cell significance, separating out the carbon emissions and achieving the goal of reducing overall carbon emissions. After understanding the carbon emission of main materials, emissions from bond materials cannot be overlooked. As we can see, a significant amount of carbon emissions from bond materials comes from aluminum and glass. In response, efforts are being made to cut the carbon emissions of bond. For aluminum frames, the first way to replace primary aluminum with recycled aluminum. From this chart on the right, we can see that producing 1 ton of primary aluminum produces 20 tons of CO2, while 1 ton of recycled aluminum produces only 0.58 tons of CO2. The carbon emissions of recycled aluminum are significantly lower than those of primary aluminum. Currently, the use of recycled aluminum in frame is still its earlier stage, but in the future, as the proportion of recycled aluminum increases, it will efficiently lower the carbon emissions of aluminum frames. In addition to material replacement, the aluminum frame also reduces carbon emission by lowering the frame's weight. From 2022 to 2024, 4. As the weight has been reduced and the module efficiency has improved, the amount of aluminum used per gigawatt of modules has also decreased, thereby reducing emissions. In terms of glass, the current carbon reduction measure also focus on improve overall efficiency to spare out the carbon emission of module. Since 2022, with the continuous improvement in module efficiency, the amount of glass used has been decreased. The associated carbon emissions have also been gradually decreasing. Today we have discussed technology, products, and carbon emissions. Now I'm going to conclude my presentation with a summary. In terms of technology, we have observed the transition from P-type to N-type becoming faster and faster. This year, the total share of N-type technology, including TOPCon, HAT, BC, will approach 80%. In terms of products, rectangular wafer are more popular, and their application is contributing to certain gain in module performance. Regarding carbon emissions, we need to pay attention to the development of CBAM and other policy. Currently, the primary impact is on the aluminum frame, but it may expand to include glass in the future. The carbon tax will begin in 2026. In addition, we have been continuous efforts from manufacturers to reduce carbon emissions in modules, such as the use of granular silicon, increasing efficiency. To reduce emissions and reducing the weight of frames with recycled aluminum and light frame designs. These are some of measures that both main and bone materials manufacturers are taking to reduce emissions. We hope that the entire industry will continue to move towards a more low carbon future. Thank you for your listening.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dora from InfoLink. As we approach the end of 2024, I'm excited to share and discuss with you the industry developments. And today, my topic is PV supply chains, pricing dynamics, and the potential risks with opportunities. As Kel and Vicky have discussed the global demand and module technology trends in detail, I will share with you some insights of PV supply, price, and inventory, and some of our thoughts and suggestions for the upcoming 2025. I will begin with the global PV supply chain landscape. And this year, we all experiencing a turning point in the PV development. In 2024, the capacity of the 4 main industrial chains in the PV industry will all reach 1,000 gigawatt. Although the expansion rate has slowed down significantly and cannot be compared with the growth rate of more than 50% in 22 and 23. But we expect that the capacity of polysilicon and module to reach 1,400 gigawatt by the end of this year, which will bring a severe test to existing the capacity in 2025 to even 26. In terms of industrial landscape, although the 4 main sectors have their development trajectories and characteristics, the overall concentration of leading companies is still relatively high. In 2024, the top 5 account for 76% of total polysilicon capacity, and the wafer top 10 will account for 76% and 58% of the top 10 cell capacity. The module top 10's capacity, despite being the lowest among the four major sectors, is expected to account for about 55%. The high concentration of the industrial chain will directly impact the progress of capacity clearance and the intensity of competition in 2025, making the path of capacity clearance even more difficult. In terms of global demand, InfoLink expects the module demand to reach 469 gigawatt to 533 gigawatt in 2024, due to the significant demand growth scale in 23, which has expanded the baseline. The year-on-year growth rate is expected to fall within 1% to 14% this year. Compared with the rapid expansion of the capacity scale on the supply side, the growth rate on the demand side has begun to slow down significantly. Reflected in the changes in the industrial, we can clearly observe that the overall utilization level of the four major sectors in 2024 is relatively low. In the second half of this year, the utilization rate of polysilicon will be significantly reduced with less than 65% of the annual capacity utilization. And the utilization rate of the wafer and the cell segments will decline to 54% to 58%. And the overall capacity utilization of the module segment will be the lowest, which can maintain at about only 45% throughout the year. The module sectors saw a utilization rate lower than 50%, and even the leading vertically integrated module companies are significantly affected in the second half of the year. Each sector has different degrees of new capacity, but it is unfortunately that part of these new capacities have to keep silent. As of now, the global PV production and the supply are still concentrated in China, and it is expected that it will be difficult to completely change in the status, at least in the near future. However, the rising of tide to anti-globalization is indeed a trend that cannot be ignored. These include the efforts to diversify the production locations for the four major segments of the industrial chain, as well as for BOM materials, with an accelerated path of expansion into new regions. As shown in our figure, you can see, in addition to the existing overseas expansion, we accept 100,000 tons of new polysilicon capacity to be commissioned in Oman, Middle East in 2025. As per our observation, it is expected that the 20 gigawatt ingot capacity in Saudi Arabia will start production after 2026 as the earliest. In addition, the ingot pulling capacity are clearly concentrated in the four Southeast Asian countries. The expansion progress of other countries in Southeast Asia and India is also something we are very concerned about. I believe that many of you are also concerned about the overseas expansions of the middle and downstream sectors. Based on our database, the total overseas cell capacity is about 114 gigawatts so far. As shown in the figure, the capacity is mainly concentrated in the four Southeast Asian countries. The progress of expansion in India is lower than expected, and the North Africa and the Middle East are expected to see around 11 gigawatt of new capacity construction after 2025. But the actual progress of construction remains to be seen. At present, the total overseas module capacity is about 263 gigawatt, but it's mainly distributed in the 4 countries in the Southeast Asia, India, and North America. It is expected that North Africa and the Middle East will supplement the module capacity to a certain extent in addition to expanding cell capacity. The direction is clear, but there is no actual progress until this moment. For Europe, it has several world-renowned laboratories with rich technical reserve and also had a considerable scale of cells and module manufacturing capacity in the early stage. However, the current manufacturing scale is relatively scarce and not very active. And the development of new energy, including solar, is still dependent on the product's imports. For the Middle East capacity in the region, it will not only meet local demand, but also has the advantages in terms of the strategic locations, which can supply the traditional demand concentrated areas such as the North American market and the European market. Okay, let's move to next page. In 2025, the supply and demand relationship seems pessimistic, with the supply side facing the inventory becoming a commonplace. In terms of the demand in 2025, we expect the module demand to be around 492 gigawatt to 568 gigawatt, with a year-on-year growth rate is about 5% to 7%, which is obviously a significant slowdown compared to the high growth rate in previous year. In terms of supply, we expect the global silicon module production to be around 620 gigawatts in this year, and this figure will remain in the range of 620 gigawatt to 640 gigawatt in next year, well, facing the capacity decline. And in terms of inventory, there will be 100 to 110 gigawatt of inventory circulating in the industrial chain at the end of the year, and the module inventory in Europe peaked at the end of 2023, reaching about 50 gigawatt, and the inventory depleting was obviously in the first half of 2024, leaving around an inventory range of 25 gigawatt to 35 gigawatt by the end of this year. And now we move to the second part. Actually, 2024 is a turning point for the global PV. The contradiction between the supply and demand, as well as the capacity phase out in 2025, will be unavoidable. We'll talk about that in the second part. First of all, we would like to analyze the profit and the loss of each sector in the industrial chain based on the market price and the cost level in October 2024. The results are not optimistic because each sector is under huge survival pressure. In the upstream segment, the profitability of polysilicon and wafer has deteriorated worse severely. The best performing polysilicon production line may achieve a gross margin of about 400 only, but most of other companies have fallen to minus 27% or even worse. The wafer has entered a phase of the comprehensive losses, with loss margin expected to fall to around minus 25% to minus 12%, which is concerning. Although the proportion of the new TOPCon cell capacity is very high, the overall overall profitability has declined, and leading to a gross margin of about 0 to 8% for now, which is also in a difficult situation. And our calculation shows that the current OEM module may remain 6% to 9% gross profit, and the loss is expected to reach about -3% under the self-production scenario. And the in-house capacity of vertically integrated companies has become a temporary burden. The current loss situation on the supply side has lasted for more than half a year in the wafer sector, while other sectors are also facing losses in the second half of 2024. And we believe that such situation will remain difficult to improve in the short term and are not likely to turn around easily in 2025 and even 26. Therefore, from now on, we have entered the circle of gradual withdrawal of capacity. In the case of long-term serious losses under the current price level, it's true that the prices of the industrial chain are gradually bottom out. And even if the downward trend continues, there is little room for adjustment. And also, it's generally agreed with the industry that the prices in the upstream sector, including polysilicon and wafers, have reached a bottom. However, the prices of cells and modules are still fluctuating and have yet to stabilize. There is considerable disagreement within the industry about whether the future trend will follow an L, the character L, or character U-shaped recovery in the future. We believe that it is difficult to raise prices in the short term, and the L-shaped price trend will likely persist through 2025. In terms of the module prices, trends, and forecasts, let's take a quick look at the historical prices. As a mainstream product of the previous generation, PERC modules experienced their peak price of USD 0.28 per watt in the early 2022. And then from then on, the price fell all the way to 0.095 per watt as of the Q3 of this year. That's a drop of 66% from the peak. So, what's the price trend of the current mainstream product of TOPCon module? The module prices are likely to fall to a record low. For China market pricing, the TOPCon modules are expected to be priced at the RMB price 0.685 to 0.719 per watt. And for HJT module prices are expected to be in the range of RMB price 0.776 to 0.841 per watt. Due to the specificity of the US market, the modules price may rise slightly, and probably the USD dollar price is expected to be FOB 0.25 to 0.28 per watt. For Indian market, Indian ALMM list constraints are gradually taking effect, and the component link dependencies decreasing, and the US dollar price is expected to be FOB 0.0841 to 0.0955 per watt. There is a temporary shortage of the domestic manufacturing capacity in Europe, just now we mentioned, and the USD module prices are expected to be in FOB 0.0891 to 0.1013 per watt, which is still a slight reduce compared to the current price. So all in all, a downside price is possible, but the space is limited already. Based on our continuous observation of the industry, I would like to share our thoughts and insights regarding current situation and the future status of the industry in the third part. The PV industry has experienced more than a decade rapid progress and growth actually, and 2024 is set to be a turning point year. And the core challenges of the industry are shifting, signaling its transition into a mature stage, especially compared to the past 5 years. At the same time, it remains a vibrant and innovative and competitive field. And that's the truth, and that's what we are seeing now. For the downside, accompanying rapid deployment and the gradually becoming evident, with excessive capacity expansion creating a situation where future growth and potential demand are being overdrawn. The next trend we will face is the elimination and the clearance of excess capacity. Although this progress is not expected to be finished in a short period of time, we will also find that the current high level of concentration in the industry chain will continue in the short term and may even be further increased. The emergence of strategic alliance between leading companies will become more common, making it difficult to disrupt the existing market structure. In addition, regarding the price floor of the industrial chain we mentioned earlier, we expect there is a strong policy intervention from regulators. This is a fast-moving and dynamic yet challenging industry marked by excessive competition that has triggered a series of negative ripple effects. In addition, the trend of the deglobalization has already taken shape, unless there is a major transformative shift globally, we foresee the political uncertainty persisting through 2025 to 2026, including but not limited to the traditional markets such as United States and Europe. Okay, let's get a conclusion. As Dickens once said, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And for the PV industry in 2025, it will be navigating the path of the renewal and upgrade. Yet still risks and opportunities will continue to coexist. Potential risks, we should be aware of the low price trap. The current market competition has intensified to a fever pitch and leading to the chaotic market. The modules are a product that is expected to last for at least 20 to 25 years and even longer. So it's crucial not to blindly pursue the low prices at the expenses of the product quality. Moreover, please be cautious of the false premises by the makers. And second, as the industry undergoes self-renewal, capacity elimination and enterprises exist are inevitable. Companies without the competitiveness may fail to honor contracts. So it is recommended to pay more closer attention to the critical indicators such as the enterprise's liability and the operating cash flow, and choose the high quality partners. Thirdly, in case of the quality defects and financial losses, some companies lose the ability to control the product quality, which would cause the defects and hidden issues in modules. It is especially important to pay attention to the BOM material list of a module company. Of course, there are always new opportunities and hopes in the midst of the crisis. We remain confident in the future development of the PV industry. In terms of the opportunity, actually in the context of the relaxed global monetary policies, the interest rates have significantly reduced financial and financing costs, while the lower saving rates have resulted in a more abundant cash inflows. Although some European countries have experienced the negative electricity price, many regions around the world are still facing the soaring electricity costs and the power shortage. Making investment in solar and storage projects is a valuable opportunity. Many high-quality assets have been sharp declines over the past 2 years, leading to the undervaluation. As the PV industry is turning to a mature state, many companies are adopting an open mindset, seeking the new forms of cooperation. This includes, but not limited to, the investment, the mergers, and the acquisitions, as well as strengthening the security and stability of the core materials in the supply chain. And then we call on everyone to respect the principles of the market economy and the rules of the survival of the forest. Greater attention should be paid to the wave of module retirement starting from 2032 from Europe, focusing on the module recycling, the carbon tax replacement, and other directions related to the environmental protection, and consider the innovative investment models that links these trends within the industry development. Okay, that's all. That's all my talk today, and thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you all for staying with us. We are excited to begin the Q&A session. We have received many insightful questions, and while we wish we could cover all, we have selected the most relevant questions to ensure we make the best use of our time. Our panelists, Dora, Kyle, and Vicky, are here to share their expertise to help answer your inquiries. As we all know, price trends have been a central concern in the supply chain, especially for modules. The fluctuations in module price have sparked widespread discussion, and today we will address a few of the key questions on this topic. Dora, you mentioned earlier that the cost of modules have been declining, largely due to reductions in raw material price and advance in technology. Could you provide more details on how you see PV panel costs evolving in the near term?
Okay, thank you, Ellie. Actually, the cost of modules has been declining rapidly in the past decade, which is related to the decline of the raw material prices and the progress of industrial technology. From our point of view, first of all, with improvement of the efficiency of cells and modules, we believe that there is still room for efficiency improvement and cost reduction in N-type technology in the future. And the reduction of the unit consumption of the silver passed in the cell is currently the most important means for enterprises to do the reduced costs. And in the module sector, on the premise of ensuring the reliability, enterprises are still trying to reduce the weight of the film and the weight of the frame to reduce the costs. And the zero BB technology is also becoming more and more mature. Under the premise of the overall supply of the industrial, some materials such as quartz, crucibles, and the BOE still have little room for price reduction. On the premise that the metal prices are relatively stable, we believe that there will be at least some cost reduction next year. However, the prices of silver, copper, and the aluminum have fluctuated too much this year, and it is very likely that the cost reductions that companies have worked hard to complete will be directly covered up by the price fluctuations of those metals. That's my answer, Ellie. Thank you.
Thanks for that insight, Dora. It's clear that while there is potential for cost reductions, there are several variables, especially around material cost. Now, let's move on to a more technical questions. Vicky, could you share your insights on the price dynamics between TOPCon and HJT, and what can we expect in terms of future competition between them?
Okay, we believe that there will be certain price premium for HJTs and TOPCon. There are several reasons. First, HJT's power output is 10 watt higher than TOPCon. Second, HJT's manufacturing is 1 cent higher than TOPCon. Third, HJT has advantage in low carbon emissions in the European market, which also contributes to its price premium. Yet, where HJT has a price premium of more than 1 cent, its room will narrow and decline to around half cent in 2026 or 2027. Thank you.
Thank you for that analysis, Vicky. It's evident that while HJT currently holds a price premium, the gap between HJT and TOPCon is expected to narrow in the coming years. Now shifting gears slightly, Dora, we have also received a question related to broader market challenges. Could you provide some insights on the trend in company bankruptcies within the solar industry?
Okay, thank you, Ellie. That's really a good question, but it's not easy to answer. As we discussed just now, on the relationship between supply and demand, 2024 actually is a turning point here, and capacity decline and elimination are unavoidable problems. All sectors are facing the threat of bankruptcy, but the trend of high concentration is difficult to change, at least in the near future. The marginal and the weakest competitive enterprises will face the bankruptcy first, but the different degrees of government intervention will affect the bankruptcy progress. Considering all factors, I think the progress of enterprise exist will not be too fast. Is expected to continue to occur in the next 2 or even next 3 years. Ellie.
Thank you, Dora. As you mentioned, the dynamic within the supply chain are shifting, and these trends are likely to impact companies over the next few years. Now, building on the topic of cost, Vicky, this next question is for you. Considering the price across the supply chain are already very low, are there any other ways manufacturers can further reduce cost?
Well, taking glass-to-glass TOPCon modules as an example, our cost structure data in September 2023 shows that the polysilicon glass and frame has constituted the major cost of modules. In the same month this year, module BOM, including glass, frame, and the silver paste, becomes the major costs. Presently, many companies are investing more resources and R&D on BOM optimization to reduce costs. As I mentioned earlier, the aluminum frame makers use recycled aluminum and lower the weight of the frame to reduce costs. The encapsulant film is also working on reduced weight, where silver paste is focusing on reducing consumption per unit. So where everyone is focusing on the main materials, we also suggest paying more attention to the development of both materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. It's interesting to see how material optimization continues to be a key area for cost reduction, even as price remain low. Now, shifting our focus from technology to international partnership. Kyle, we have received a question regarding Brazil's role in renewable energy. Could you share your thoughts on how Brazil might serve as a partner for Europe, particularly in solar and energy storage?
Sure, thank you. Although Brazil's demand might slightly decrease next year due to the impact of duty-free import quotas, the country still has long-term growth potential. In addition, Brazil's government has introduced favorable policies for distributed generation projects recently. And Europe, being a mature market for distributed generation sector, presents a significant opportunity for companies to expand in Brazil's market, which includes both C&I and public building projects. This could assist Brazil in developing this area. And in terms of energy storage, it has become a key focus in many countries. However, from current observations, the Brazilian government has not shown clear support for its development. And while some progress might be made in the next 2 years, the Latin American industry is now paying more attention to Chile. We also offer relevant reports and consulting services for energy storage. So please feel free to contact our energy storage team after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. It seems that while Brazil presents some exciting opportunities, especially in distributed generation sector, energy storage may require more time to develop. Now, bringing the conversation back to Europe, Kyle, many are concerned about the impact of negative electricity price on PV plant developers. How do you think this will impact developers in Europe, and what could be done to address these challenges?
Well, Europe often faces negative electricity prices and grid congestion issues during the summer with excessive solar power generation, which affects the revenue of power producers. This situation is expected to influence European demand from the end of second quarter to the third quarter in the short term, although the extent of impact still requires further observation. And in recent years, negative electricity prices have almost become a widespread phenomenon across Europe, but effects on long-term demand is relatively limited. While many countries might consider following Poland to optimize the grid and temporarily halt power plant generation to alleviate the oversupply of solar power in summers, these issues could be improved if Europe deploys energy storage at a large scale that could store excess electricity in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. It's clear that energy storage could be key to resolving some of these issues and maintaining stability in the European markets. With that, we have reached the end of our Q&A section. Thank you to everyone for the excellent questions and to our panelists for their valuable insights. We hope this session has provided clarity on the key issues facing the solar market. If your questions wasn't answered, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will do our best to follow up. We hope you find today's webinar informative and valuable. We will send you a survey link after the end of this webinar, and you can download today's slides after filling out the survey. If there is anything that we can do to help your business, please feel free to get in touch with us. Thank you. We will see you next time.